I have been told my entire life that other women are my competition. We have women that cut down other women's successes because they don't have it. Those women that show up at the end when the job is done are not hype women. Hype women are a part of the journey.
Erin Gallagher is an intersectional feminist focused on gender equity and capital access for women. She's the founder and CEO of Hype Women, an ecosystem and network designed to help women access human, financial, and social capital.
When we see another woman succeeding, that first jealousy, this is not our personality, it's our conditioning.
Why do we think there are limited opportunities, that we have to eliminate someone else?
We don't see ourselves everywhere. Men don't have this feeling because they see themselves everywhere. We know that we are fighting for crumbs. That's why we can't exist inside of this current ecosystem and win.
Why do you think Hype Women is resonating strongly right now?
Women want something different. They want something more. We have the messages that we were told as little girls that became part of our operating system. And that is on replay in our head.
What advice do you have to women who are building their own personal brand?
This is my advice to all women.
I reached out to you because, well, I've been fangirling you for a while, and but you started this Hype Woman kind of movement and then wrote a book. So do you want to tell us what this is all about? Because I feel like it's much more than a book. It's a movement and a decision that we need.
Oof. Yes, it is. I'm realizing, and it's taken me probably the past 6 months of having the book go out into the world and then sitting with what it is to kind of birth something like that and be witnessed or not witnessed, what that does to your ego and to just your identity. So I've gone through like a real additional metamorphosis since releasing the book into the world, and a deeper clarity on kind of what I'm here to do going forward.
Isn't that amazing when that happens? It's scary as hell, but I almost feel like, at least that's what I tell my nervous system. If I'm scared, that means I'm on the right track. And that's what I tell people as I'm like mentoring them. So I love the fact that in the first 60 seconds, you've already like owned that, because you've opened so many doors for people with that transparency. Okay. So you've been witnessed, you've put this out into the world. And so tell us about it.
It's absolutely a movement. And we really started this movement a few years ago, where we made a decision as women to stop viewing other women as threats and competition, and seeing a light shining on her as casting a shadow on you. This zero-sum game that we've been conditioned to believe in the fabric of our being. I think that when we have that feeling, when we see another woman succeeding, that first feeling that often looks like jealousy or even envy, we are so ashamed of it, and we internalize it, and we feel bad, or we actually let it fester and grow, and it causes us to do the opposite of what we're feeling, which is wanting to celebrate her, and we are actually starting to talk shit about her. I think we have to recognize that this is not our personality. It's our conditioning. And if we can take a moment to say, of course I feel like this. I have been told my entire life, especially in my career, that other women are my competition. And so if she's winning, it means I'm losing. And if we can have that moment where we say, this isn't my fault that I feel like this, but it is my opportunity and my responsibility to make a different choice, then we can move that feeling through our body into a different type of action, and that is hype. Because hype is not frivolous. It's not this like rah-rah cheerleader piece of our existence. That is a part of the whole of it, but hype is a transfer of capital. And we have all different types of capital at our disposal: human, social, financial, political, spiritual. And it is a transfer of one of those or more types of capital that we have into another woman. And it's also a reception of that when it comes towards us.
I love that so much, and the way that you describe that, and it's so needed. But I will tell you, I did not experience animosity from women until later in my career. And then Erin, it was like the floodgates opened up and kept introducing me to these women that were the antithesis of hype women, so much so that I went to my coach and I said, tell me what I'm doing wrong. Because once again, right, so that I keep inviting this energy into my life. And the reason I think I was shielded, yes, I had that conditioning that we've all been exposed to, but I got married very young, so wasn't competing in the dating scene. And by choice, people always ask, were you arranged marriage? No, let's just get that off the table. But I got married very young, so wasn't, like competing into my 20s for dates. And then in medicine, until you start your own business, in medicine, in a hospital system, in a group setting, in residency, you're learning together, you're teaching, and you're trying to save people's lives, right? Like I was doing surgery, labor and delivery. So it was so much so a group effort that when I launched my own company and launched HerMD, that's when I started experiencing, for the first time, my body went into shock, malevolence. Like people who will do things not for even their own benefit or, like you said, transfer of capital, but truly just to strike you down. And it did some lasting damage, I will tell you for sure. But what I swore is that I would not repeat the toxicity of those women, and I would not let it alter who I was, my ethos, and who I was as a human being, no matter how painful those lessons were. But isn't it remarkable that a woman can be, I love what you said, the fake rah, while sticking a knife in your back in the next room, right? Like, and I have experienced it over and over again. Yeah.
I experienced it inside of the first company that I co-founded, a company that was literally created to help women. And I think we see a lot of companies who purport they're there to support women and celebrate them, who have women leading them that are anything but hype women. They are fully mean girls, and they attract that, and they attract another type of woman, one that is so easily manipulated because she is empathetic. She's a people pleaser. She cares about others. So those types of women, of which I'm one, and I know that you are one, we are targeted because of our empathetic people-pleasing modus operandi.
And why didn't I come to you? And I paid a coach so much to learn that. She goes, why? I go, why? Why? And she said, your empathy. They may be more successful or better looking. And Erin, I love surrounding myself with, what was the first thing I said to you when popped on? I'm like, you look beautiful. You bought the glitter. Like, I love surrounding myself with other really strong, successful, smart women. But the coach was like, the empath that you are, the way you relate to patients, the way you relate to people, the narcissistic or the mean girls, they can't have that quality, so they're going to destroy it. And that you're a magnet for it.
Absolutely. You're absolutely a magnet. Perfect target, because we are going to shapeshift in order to ensure that people aren't uncomfortable. And we are thinking about the greater good. And so we're like, hey, we'll get through this thing that's happening to us because I see the long-term opportunity, right? So we abandon ourselves in service to others. We bypass what is happening inside of our body in order to keep going. It's all of that. And we disassociate from our bodies to survive. And I think what's happened for many of us, and this definitely happened for me, when I turned 40, I just hit this breaking point where the phrase that kept coming to me was, I will no longer abandon myself in service to others. I will no longer abandon myself in service to others, because this had been my entire operating system, both personally and professionally, for the entirety of my 40 years on this planet. And I said, to what end am I going to keep doing this? So I started to make small shifts. And I looked around at the lot of my life, at the company that I co-founded with 2 other women, at the way that I was parenting, at my marriage, at the friendships that I was taking with me that have, began in high school and were still continuing because of inertia. And I looked around and I said, is this still working? And in every single case, it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And we don't ask ourselves that question very often because it's really scary.
Yes.
Right? It's scary to actually be able to say, my marriage isn't working in its current form. It doesn't mean it has to end. It might mean it has to end, but it just means that I have to communicate who I am now, what my expectations are. I need to renegotiate this contract with my spouse because I'm not the person he married. And so we don't do this enough where we sit across the table from people that we are in community with and say, hey, we started this a long time ago and I ain't that girl anymore. This is who I am now. This is what I need. This is what I expect. And I need to hear what you need too. And we need to decide whether or not this continues.
And I love the way you said that because I do believe there are seasons for relationships and there's a reason people are brought into your life. And, I just sold her MD and it was 10 years and it was so, yay! Exited. God, queen. Was it a tumultuous journey though? If we really pull back. Yeah, because being one of the first to market, think about it. The menopause movement is happening now, and I started that business 10 years ago for sexual health and menopause in Cincinnati, Ohio. People thought I was nuts.
That's right.
Oh my God. People, if you only knew like what happens to female founders and what really goes on behind closed doors. I feel like I filmed Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Oh, sis. I know. Trust me, I know.
And the greater good for me was always, the patients, the providers, and the beating that you take. But what I think I learned was there's a season and reason why people come in and out of your life. You don't deserve the bad things that happen from you, but I always took them as a learning. But rather than cutting people off, like you said, it doesn't mean things have to end, but healthy boundaries. And for me, I want to say not just my work life, but my whole life. I am a minority female eldest daughter doctor. You want to talk about suppressing my own needs? And
that's the quadruple threat, I think. Yeah.
And being in service to others, like ignore my own hunger, need to go to the bathroom, my own pain, own sleep.
Oh, yeah.
So it took turning 50 before I woke up and said, how do I want to spend the rest of my career? What difference do I want to make? And I hate the word balance because I feel like we're always in a state of imbalance, but how do I remain healthy and happy and invested and creative? Because my creativity dies, my sparkle dies when I'm burned out. And I had to recognize that. So why do you think this concept of hype women is resonating so strongly right now?
I think that it's resonating because women want something else. Mm-hmm. They want something different. They want something more. They are tired of mean girls.
Oh, God.
They're tired, right? They're just tired of them. They're tired of coming across them at their kids' pickup with the other moms that are there. They're tired of coming across them inside of the organizations that they're running or that they're a part of in social settings, in their families. They're tired of it. And they also are tired of the mean girl inside of them because we also all have a mean girl inside of us.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There is no one who has been meaner to me or more critical than myself.
Can you please say that again? Because it took a therapist telling me you are so hard on yourself. Say that one more time.
There is no one in my life who has been meaner or more critical of me than myself. The mean girl voice inside of me has kept me from experiencing more joy. Mm-hmm. It has kept me in places that I have outgrown. It has kept me from taking risk and leaps that I deserve to try. It is a combination of society and everything they tell us as women. And I'm a straight, white, cisgendered woman, so I have the most privilege of any woman. And yet, right, we still experience the messages of how we're not pretty enough, we're not young enough, we're not thin enough, we're not tall enough, we're not smart enough, we're not rich enough, all of it. So we have that conditioning that's coming at us. We have the messages that we were told as little girls that became a part of our operating system. We have the conversations that we've had with people we've worked for or worked with, women who have cut us down and told us we were less than and didn't deserve as much. And that is on replay in our head.
Oh, when I did an interview with Naomi Watts, I had a doctor say, why you and not me? And I was so shocked, Erin. I was like, because I work with her, because she trusts me. And then I found myself defending, and I was like, why am I defending? Like, why am I defending to you why I got this opportunity? And I think...
Okay,
Yes.
Can I give you an amazing response to use going forward?
Please.
Okay, because like, and then I want you to keep going with what you're doing, but I just want to give you this response. How would you like me to respond to that? That is my favorite thing to say to people who say a ridiculous statement, ask me a question that is like unbelievably inappropriate. Mm-hmm. Because what it does is it holds a mirror up to them. And it takes the pressure off of you to try to interpret their intention, to try to regulate your nervous system, to decide whether or not you want to react, respond, or refrain. You don't have to do any of the work. So when someone asks you a ridiculous question like, why you, Somi, why are you interviewing Naomi Watts? You get to say, how would you like me to respond to that? Because here's the way that woman could respond. Well, I'm just asking because like, I feel, right, she's gonna stutter and she's gonna fall over herself, and you are literally gonna witness it. You're gonna witness it. You're gonna let the whole thing play out, the whole thing. And at the end of it, wherever it lands, you get to say, I deserve to be here. My voice matters. And this is not a comparative exercise. I am not interviewing Naomi Watts because you're not. And you're not interviewing Naomi Watts because I am. Stop making this a competition.
I love this so much because I agree with you. You address toxic comparison, but also what we were talking about earlier. Why do we think there is such limited capital? And I love the way you explained that there are multiple layers of capital, emotional, financial, opportunities. Why are we so conditioned to believe men don't think that there's limited capital? Why do we think there are limited opportunities, that we have to be exclusive, that we have to eliminate someone else to get that? Why can't we create our own capital or, lift each other up? Like, why? Why do you think we think that way?
It's because we don't see ourselves everywhere. Men don't have this feeling. They don't have that competitive zero-sum game feeling because they see themselves everywhere, right? Everywhere. They're not worried because they know there will always be a spot for them. When women look at the Fortune 500 and we represent less than 10%, and that's white women, we know that she's your competition. When we look at VC capital and we see that women receive less than 2.3% of VC funding, and that's white women, women of color, less, Black women, zero, we know that we are fighting for crumbs. So that's why we can't exist inside of this current ecosystem and win. We can't. We're also not going to change it overnight. It may not happen in our lifetime that we are running the Fortune 500, that we are the majority, even though women are 51% of the population, half of the labor force, and 85% of consumer buying power. We are not in positions of power and influence. We do not have all of the financial wealth. So we have to think about our capital way more creatively. And that's what this Hype Women ecosystem is. It is saying, guess what? We don't have all the money, so we have got to start using and exchanging our human capital. What do you know that you can transfer to me? What do you know that you can transfer What do I know that I can transfer to you? Our social capital, who do you know? What are the introductions that you can make for me? What rooms can you get me into? Our political capital, can you use your power and influence, your reputation to make moves for me, to ensure that I am in front of opportunities and have access to opportunities that I would never have had on my own? Financial capital, obviously, we understand what that is, cash money. And then spiritual capital is energy. How do we transfer that energy to one another? Our manifestations, our vibe, our actual time and energy. So this to me is like the answer to the fact that we are not currently going to win at a game that is rigged against us. So we have to play by new rules.
And that's when I found myself one of the biggest targets, because I am a minority woman and it's less than 0.5%. And after I raised $40 million, I raised a lot of eyebrows too. And I actually had someone write a piece on me on social media because we were taking insurance and we figured out how to have a profitable company and with menopause, sexual health care, advanced gynecology, and an insurance-based system. And I was able to raise money. And basically the article was, wink, wink, what is this girl doing? Why would VCs, they want the ROI, why would they give her all this money? Instead of asking me for an interview and asking me how for 7 years I was profitable before I took on VC funding, like, ask me, I'll teach you. But why do you have to tear me down to your, on a social media platform and question my intentions as a physician? Like, that was absolutely crazy to me. So we've talked about all of these bad examples. Give me a good, true moment where you had seen a hype woman moment, or a woman where women were supporting women and you got to witness it or be a part of it, or it was beautiful.
Well, the one that is coming to me that is just an obvious one, and it was the spark that led to me writing a post that then went viral. It's a very simple moment. And it was seeing Jamie Lee Curtis celebrate Michelle Yeoh when she won Best Actress for her leading role in Everything Everywhere All at Once. So again, you may look at this and go, who cares? It's actresses. Like, it's an award show. It doesn't matter. Hold on for a second here. We have Michelle Yeoh, an Asian woman who had been a working actor for more than 40 years, who not only had never won an award, she had never been nominated. And so that act alone was giving access to someone who deserved to have their name in contention. She had never even been a part of the consideration set before. And that is because we live in a racist, misogynist patriarchy. So the fact that she was even considered is the first piece. And then, of course, she wins. And so Jamie knew that. She knew the journey. She knew the anxiety of this moment for her because it was the first time. She knew what it was going to mean. So when Michelle won, Jamie stood up and screamed like in a guttural way that everyone felt. Everyone. And without context, you look at it and you say, did Jamie win something? Because I had never seen a woman celebrate another woman's success as if it were her own. So like what you're talking about, not only do we have women that cut down other women's successes because they don't have it, this is women actually feeling and celebrating another woman's success as if she's experiencing it. So that's the type of thing that I started to pay attention to. Where else is this happening? Where are women doing this? And more than just showing up when it's good, more than so many women showing up on social media and going, yes, girl, you exited. You're so amazing. Yeah, where the fuck were you? Where have you been for the past 10 years? Where have you been for the 10 years before that? You weren't around when it was hard, when people were coming after me, when people didn't think it was going to work. You weren't there when I needed help. You weren't there when I needed investment, when I needed hype. So those women that show up at the end when the job is done are not hype women. Hype women are a part of the journey.
And when I saw that picture, I wanted to cry. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going to cry. I wanted to cry for two reasons. Number one, I was so happy to see another woman celebrating another woman so hard. And I love the way you put it, like as if it were her own, right? If you saw the picture, you're like, oh, Jamie Lee won. But the second honest feeling I had was an immense sense of loss. I was like, I don't think I have ever had another woman, with the exception of my mother, ever celebrate me in that way, like in that true way where there wasn't a blink of their eyebrow or I wish I could have done it, or there wasn't jealousy later or an offhanded comment. I mean, you've been subject to it somehow, taking you down while complimenting you. And I felt that loss for a second. And then the third thing, I was like, I am going to be that woman for other people. I am going to mentor, like you said, I'm going to help fill access wherever I can. If there's a speaking opportunity, if I can make an intro to an investor, if I can get you into a room where you can fundraise, if I can get you that amazing speaker, or like I introed two sets of female founders today who are in the same arena, didn't know each other, but obviously can help each other and they can grow their network even more. And I don't work for either one of them, but I was like, oh, I'm interviewing you. She's like, do you know this person? I'm like, absolutely. Made the intro and said, all right, guys, I'm out. Like, make the magic happen. How much time did that take? 2 minutes of my time, Erin? But who knows what that will lead to for those women.
You transferred your social capital to them.
Yeah.
That is what you did. You transferred your social capital. They didn't have that. They didn't know each other. You have connected them. That is going to become something more. And so I want to talk about those three feelings that you had, right? Joy, grief, and then motivation and inspiration. We bypass grief all the time, especially as women, especially as founders, especially as eldest daughters, right? And I'm an eldest daughter of an eldest daughter. So like, this is some like fucking like epigenetic shit that is not good. Okay. It's not good.
Why am I feeling like you're like my blonde sister? We have the same, we were set up in the same way and then sent out into the world. Yes.
Right? Sent out in the world to carry the generational trauma with us until we decide one day to put it down. So when you had that feeling of like, God, I don't have women like this, here's what I want you to know. That has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the women who are in your life who are not that way. So what has happened for me in the past 3 years, but really in the past year, is my circle has gotten real small. I have started to let go of the performative people in my life who are there because they want to say we're friends, who are there because they want access to what I've built and created, who are there because of history. We've been friends for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and we just aren't even considering that we're not going to be friends, but we are not growing together anymore. I have stopped letting inertia keep me in these relationships. And I have started to say, I'm done with this. More of this. And so I have women now who are those women who feel my fucking success as much as I do, who are in the grit and dirt and mud with me when it is ugly and unfun and unglamorous. Like, girl, on social media, there are always the same women who show up when I'm shiny, right? When my shit is shiny, ooh, they're like, hey girl, you're amazing. And I'm like, honestly, where the fuck have you been? But if I appear dull to them, they are gone. And I'm done with it. I'm done. I am absolutely done with this. And we stay in relationships with women who we are afraid to lose their social capital. They got a big following. They are a writer for a big publication, right? All these things that keep us tied to these women who are absolutely mean girls. We are fueling them. And so we have got to take our power, our time, and our energy back.
I'm going to expand on a couple of things that you said. I'm 50. My circle is the smallest it's ever been. but the depth of it and the authenticity of it is exactly, I cannot stand disingenuous people. And I think we are speaking the exact same language. Like, don't show up for my party, but then not be there and walk through hell with me. Those who have walked through hell with me and are still there on the other side, and I can call just as much about my failures and be honest and have a no judgment zone. Like, I swung and I missed. And my girlfriend will be like, that's okay. At least you showed up and you tried, girl. And she's like, if anyone can get up and do this, it's you. And I know it. And they're there in the moments of grief. They're there in the moments of solitude. They are also there in the moments of celebration. And so I have a very small but very deep circle of friends who actually don't want to play on social media. They're very private people, which makes it easier for me, because they want to be there with me, not because I'm doing something fun or cool on social media, or I got invited to some big, premiere or whatever. And those are the people that people are like, what's your perfect, night out? It's like dinner and wine and a long conversation with like really good friends. And we talk about real things. We're not making small talk. Like, that is my ideal night, obviously. And, a warm setting doesn't hurt. So.
Right? That too. Yeah. Be able to sit outside. No, but you're right. Like that, it's not, oh, my ideal setting is this massive room of like very flashy people, and we have professional photographers who are capturing it all. And it's like, God, I'm so sick of the performance piece. And we are performers because we've been told to be, and we've been rewarded to perform. And you get to a point where you say, yeah, but that can't be all there is. I can't just be here because people want me to perform for them and they expect me to. I need to also be able to go away and not have, like, I used to be afraid, Tommy, of like, I'm not going to stop posting because people are going to forget about me. I'm going to become irrelevant. And I used to have that feeling because it was that performance side of me that like always wanted to be showing up and showing out and getting external validation and approval. And I realized like the people who are going to be there, regardless of whether or not you are in the shiny spotlight, it doesn't need to feel forced. It feels like flow.
I lost my entire identity for a decade in my company. And you want to talk about grief. Like, I was in meeting with my team and they're like, you are like an author, you're writing a book, you're a podcaster, you're an expert, you're an advocate, you're a speaker. They're like, you have this whole you're a researcher. You have done all of these things outside. You're a mother, a daughter, a friend. You have done all of these things outside of her MD. They're like, you have a right. It was almost like I needed permission and I needed to grieve, like building a name for myself outside of the company that I adore and exited from. And, but it was reinvention, right? It was that fear of, are people still going to care because I'm not the founder? Well, I will always be the founder, but I'm no longer, like her MD was acquired. Are they going to care? And trusting that you have gifts and you're able to reinvent yourself. And it's scary. It's almost like a decade ago when I walked away from obstetrics. It's all I knew, right? I was delivering babies and being an OBGYN and a surgeon, and then starting this practice in Ohio and then watching it grow to what it grew. And I'm here again reinventing, and I'm reinventing later in life. And you've done that too. You walked away from Ella. You built Hype Women. So what does reinvention look like at this stage and phase of our lives?
It looks like slowness. It looks very quiet. It looks like prioritizing ourselves. It looks like investigating our operating system that has kept us alive and gotten us to this point, but may not be what's best for us going forward. I have gone through a dark night of the soul loss of identity, death of an ego, over and over and over and over again, right? Haverback, my very first company that I co-founded, 2.5 years into it, I resigned and I walked away. And I was like, who am I without this? I don't even know who I am. I built my identity around this. And so I don't know who I am. And it was a death of my ego. And then I took the risk a few months later to launch my own company, Ella. And you're right. Like, it's not that I've walked away from Ella. Ella has transformed into Hype Women, because that's the other thing that can happen. It can be inside of the thing that you actually created that it's shifted. And so I'm not who I was 3 years ago when I started Ella, and the business looks different now, and I am different. And so I have, rebranded and reinvigorated what this is. And so I think we have to not be afraid to let a part of who we were die, and to also recognize that we need to grieve it. When we skip the grief part, it comes back to find us, and it knocks us on our ass when we're not expecting it in a way that we don't know how to handle. So you need time to grieve her MD. You have created something from nothing. I mean, this is why I'm obsessed with founders. There are people who have ideas every single day, in the shower, while they're on a run, having a glass of wine with a friend. The difference between idea generators is a critical component, and it's action. Because people who have ideas that do nothing with them are dreamers. But those that have ideas that take action on them, those are entrepreneurs. Those are founders. And so there is literally a version of you who is still inside of her MD that doesn't exit, that continues on. There's another, like a split version of your life where that happens, but you made a different choice. And so she is gone. And this is a completely new version of you. You need to grieve her. You need to thank her and give her compassion and say, how did you fucking do that? That was so hard. No one believed you could do it. No one thought it was possible. Everyone counted you out. You were the underdog and you survived. God, how did you do that? I look back and I don't even recognize who I was 10 years ago. And you need to sit with her and you need to thank her. And then you need to let her go. Because you are not that same person anymore. And this is the part that we don't do often enough, because it's scary and it's different and it doesn't have a clear path. And that is, who the fuck am I now?
And it's quiet. So I love the fact that you talked about the grief, because people are like, congratulations, you exited. But Erin, you're right, because the other version was, and the choice was, and it was before me, more term sheets, raising another 100 million and taking it to the finish line. And not when I first opened my doors, because I thought it was just going to be a nice practice. I had no idea what it was going to become. But there is this other version, right? That I take it to the finish line and we IPO. Did we get to all 50 states? Yes, in a different, through acquisition. So it's a happy ending, but it's a much different ending. And yes, you're right. I still grieve the what if the other road. But I also agree with you, need to let her go so that she can finish this book, continue this podcast, continue the speaking opportunities. And I'll tell you, Erin, the minute I started allowing myself to let go of that version, I don't even have a team who's actively seeking opportunities. Literally the first 10 days I sat in quiet, purposeful pause, and quiet girl is hard for me. Woo! I have 3 kids, 2 dogs. I'm known as Somi Tsunami Wanderlust. And the quiet I had to take on purpose. That's why I'm down here in Florida right now by myself. All these opportunities started coming in. It's like, do you want to teach this course? Do you want to do this? Do you want to take this on? And it was like, oh my gosh. But the other thing I have learned, because the old Somi didn't do this, is there are very purposeful no's. Like opportunities I would have taken on before for exposure or because I didn't want to let someone down. I did over 60 talks last year and burned myself to the ground.
Woo! Yeah.
I have learned how to say no very politely. Like, no, I can't do that, but I'll introduce you to another great speaker. Or no, I'm sorry, I can't do things for free anymore because, you know, this is how I make my living. But if you can't afford something because you're a startup, I know someone who's starting in the space who's an incredible asset and who could help you. But I have learned how to say no without burning bridges and without being unkind. And I think that that is also a very useful and powerful word that my 19-year-old taught me. This new generation, she goes, Mom, do you know why you're tired all the time? I was like, why? She's like, because you don't know how to say no. And I was like, oof, ouch, right?
You're like, I created you. God damn it.
God damn it. And I'm like, oh, I would be madder if you weren't so right, you know, because her and her sister have no problem. I have 2 teenage girls and I have a 24-year-old son, but have no problem saying no to parties, ordering pizza, staying in, watching whatever they want to watch. And like, that's what their body, like when they get together after college and high school finals, they'll like hang out. They will say no to everybody else. And they will just refuel with food and togetherness and being on the sofa. And they don't feel guilty about it. In fact, they celebrate it. And I was like, man, I can learn something from my daughters. Like, yes, I created you, but damn, you guys are smart. Like, it's amazing.
I think that we don't give ourselves permission to sit with choices long enough. And that's definitely what happens when you're an entrepreneur. You've got to make a ton of quick decisions. And so you pride yourself on being able to do that. And the speed is like a drug, right? You keep it going and like, you don't let anything drop. And it's this cycle that you get yourself into. But it sounds like you're doing this. And for anyone who is kind of making that transition, I think an important shift to make is when you are given an opportunity, when someone comes to you with an ask, either of you that is positioned to you as something that's great for you or an ask because they need something, you don't have to respond right away. It is okay to say, you know what, let me sit with that. Thank you for the opportunity. I need to sit with that. Thank you for the invitation. I need to sit with that. Because when we react immediately, it is usually our nervous system that is in fight or flight. And so we are not giving ourselves the chance to move it through our body and to process what is happening, to then potentially make a very different choice than the one that we made before. So the version of you that always said yes to speaking opportunities was a version of you that said, Somi, what if you don't get another one? You got to take this. What if this is the one that's going to change your entire life? You need to be out there, right? That's the message that you get from that. But there is another version of you that says, yeah, but what if you rest? What if you use that energy for something else? What if not every opportunity is going to change your life? And so when we give ourselves the choice to say, I'm not going to react or respond right away, I'm going to allow this to go through my entire nervous system. I'm going to witness the trigger. I'm going to identify it as fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. I'm going to move it through my body, whether that's exercise or dance or just shaking or moving it through my voice. I'm singing, I'm yelling, I'm podcasting, I'm creating content. And then once I'm through those things, then I'm going to come back and say, okay, do I want to react, respond, refrain, or reframe this? Now I've got a totally different perspective, and now I'm going to make a different choice. This is how we start to rewire our nervous system. It's how we start to rewrite the code that is embedded in the fabric of our being that survived what it had to survive. And we go forward as new people.
So speaking of which, you are a prominent voice on LinkedIn. So how are you using this platform to drive change? And what advice do you have to women who are building their own personal brand? Because
I'm building my own personal brand because of what I've learned through this journey of being a hospital employee and then part of private practice and then part of HerMD. All of that can go away. You either walk away or you get acquired or, somebody gets fired. But, no one can ever take away your personal branding away from you. So you're a prominent voice. You have a great personal brand. How do you use this platform to drive change? And what advice do you have for other women who are building their personal brands?
Fuck LinkedIn. Okay? Absolutely fuck LinkedIn. You are right. And I'll add to it, right? When you say no one can take away your personal brand, a platform can.
Oh yeah.
When we allow these external platforms that we don't own to house our entire identity, IP, following, community, they can take it away from us. So on LinkedIn, on Instagram, I have been silenced over and over and over and over again. The algorithm does not like that I talk about women. The algorithm does not like that I talk about a white supremacist patriarchy. The algorithm does not like that I'm not a good girl who follows the rules. And so with 85,000 followers on LinkedIn that I have built on my own from nothing, no fucking paid, no agency that comes in and built this. No, this is my shit that I have created from nothing. I get like less than 1,000 views on most posts now. Okay? Because LinkedIn is silencing women. So what I have learned the hard way in the past few years is you better take your shit, your content, your brand to your own platform. You can use these social media properties to amplify, but also you don't own the algorithm. And so they can screw you over. But you better house that somewhere else.
And what's your advice? Where? Your own website? Like, where should we house it?
Yes. Get your own website. I know that a lot of people go to Substack as kind of like Substack to me is almost like a safe next step because the platform is built. It's completely in place and it's a better algorithm, but don't worry.
This is owned by a bunch of straight white men. It's coming for them too. Okay. It's coming for them too. So even if you have a paid subscription on Substack and you're like, I'm good. No, you're not.
So you need your own site. And you don't have to build an incredibly elaborate website on Wix or something else. You don't have to hire an agency. There are really simple ways to set up a site that is just a landing page where you are bringing people and you're posting your content from there. But this is my advice to all women. Protect your IP because these platforms do not give a shit about us. They are here to destroy our voices and our businesses. And so we cannot put all of our eggs in those baskets.
And I love that advice so much, Erin, because that is something that is not out yet in the public, but sold the telehealth services part of HerMD, but I protected my IP, the academy I built, the lectures, the data, the research, more to come on that. That's exciting, but I learned that was valuable. That was something that I had built, and I was just not going to hand that over. That was very different than the healthcare model. It's why people loved HerMD because our providers were so well trained, and we learned as founders that that IP and that data was valuable, and we protected it from day one. So I am agreeing with you so wholeheartedly on protect your IP. I love the fact that you're telling women to build their own website. It's the first thing I did after HerMD was build a Dr. Somi website because that is where I want followers eventually, to go and to find out what I'm doing, where I'm speaking, about the podcast, about the book. But I love that. But how do you
you want to know a trick?
Yes, for sure.
I've used LinkedIn's ego against them. So you can create a newsletter on LinkedIn and maybe do 1 or 2 sentences for every newsletter and then link to whatever else, your own website, your Substack. but you use LinkedIn's ego, because when you start a newsletter on LinkedIn, it immediately sends a message to all of your subscribers, all of your followers. So when I started that newsletter on LinkedIn, it sent a direct message to 85,000 people saying, hey, Erin started a newsletter, subscribe here. And within 48 hours, I had 20,000 subscribers to this newsletter that now every time I post a newsletter on LinkedIn, it sends them an email. So it's not like a post where like you have to opt into this content. If you have a newsletter, LinkedIn uses its system because it loves itself so fucking much. It wants to make sure it gets people on its eyes on there. But every time I am redirecting people away from LinkedIn, every single time.
I love people who are listening are probably taking notes right now going, Erin, oh my God, like this is amazing. This is how I can build my own brand.
And Somi, I'm not going to gatekeep it, right? I'm not going to say like, I'm not telling anyone about this because I want to be the only one. No, I don't. I want us to fucking drive LinkedIn into the ground. So we're going to keep finding ways to use them and use their platform to our advantage because they've been using us forever. I mean, I stopped paying for LinkedIn Premium last year because I was like, this is bullshit. I pay $700 a year to post content that drives eyes to their platform. Damn, this is rigged. They have really figured this out. So I was like, forget it. So by the way, LinkedIn doesn't like me as much because I'm not a paid premium member, but I don't care because I get more people looking at that newsletter that takes them to my Substack and to my website than look at any of my posts, even though I have 85,000 subscribers, because I'm using the algorithm against itself.
I love that so much. All right, friend, let's talk about, so we've talked about tough journeys. We've talked about mean girls. We've talked about building our own brand, but you have been through some tough shit. You have shared your journey with sobriety. How has that shaped your perspective, the way you lead?
I was so afraid to stop drinking. Drinking has been a part of my personality since I was 18, since I was a freshman in college. And I associate so much fun with drinking. And so the idea that I would ever stop drinking felt like, well, then I won't be fun. No one will want to be around me. I won't be able to go to events or do activities. How am I going to do business? And so that was what I thought my personality was and who I believed my identity was. I didn't actually plan to stop drinking. I went on a GLP-1 last year because at age 42, I had been carrying around 40 pounds for multiple years that I could not shake. It didn't matter. All of the exercise I used to do or food restriction, none of it worked. I needed to have a combination of things happen. And so I have a whole team of people, of doctors. And so I also went on hormone replacement therapy, and that has completely changed my life as well. And so I needed all of these things in order to navigate my new physiology as a more than 40-year-old woman, because I didn't have control the way that I used to of my own body. And when I went on this GLP-1, I had no desire to drink. Mm-hmm. And when I would drink, I didn't feel good. Mm-hmm. And then when I didn't feel good, I thought to myself, well, even when I'm not on a GLP-1, I don't feel good when I drink, but I think that I enjoy the experience. And so that is worth more to me than the fact that I can't sleep after I drink. I wake up feeling groggy. I'm kind of an asshole when I'm drunk. And that I also recognize that for some reason, over the course of time, and this really happened for me, this shift in the pandemic, I can't have just one drink. I think that that is pointless. And so if I'm going to drink, I'm going to have 3 or more. And that was how I started to recognize, like, this is not casual anymore. This is not something that you are in control of. This is in control of you. And so I was on that GLP-1 for 3 months. And when I went off of it, I was like, I still don't really want to do this again because I've never felt this good. And what if I just kept not drinking to see what that felt like? And Somi, The only reason I have a book that was published in the world is because I stopped drinking. I wrote my book, my 284-page book, in 2.5 months because I woke up to my body's alarm clock every morning at like 4 a.m. and had this like download, like creative fucking channel where I channeled that book. And I was totally blocking that part of me, that creativity, that connection to my own feelings and body. I was blocking so much with alcohol. And I was afraid to feel everything, which is why I kept drinking. But all the things I was afraid to feel, I didn't realize I was also blocking all of this good stuff. And so it's now been 15 months since I've had a drink. And this is everyone's personal experience and journey. No two people have the same experience with alcohol. There are people who can never drink again, and there are people who drink every day and they are completely fine. And so I'm not here to even preach one way or the other. The only thing I'm here to do when it comes to alcohol is to ask you or invite you to ask yourself the question, is it still working? Is this still working for me?
I love the fact that you share. So I was just interviewing Dr. Soa, who wrote the Ozempic Revolution and was talking about the GLP-1 and how it is leading to sobriety or reduced alcohol use for individuals, for her patients, but then also nationally. We're seeing, right, the highest rates of people who are opting. The majority of the country now doesn't drink. I think it was 52 or 53% of adults say they don't drink anymore. And so that's really interesting. What I love, I've heard that, but I love the fact that you kind of close the chapter on this and it opened this whole, because I'm writing my book right now too, now that, you know, a chapter is closed, and find myself when I'm not in patient care, which was very sad because December after 2 decades was, you know, my last patient interactions, but it allowed, because I'm an empath and I was taking on all of that heaviness from patients. Now I'm light and now I can write. And I have written, I think nearly a third of it already. And it's, just a few weeks after patient care. So, that's my goal, is to get that done. So I'm going to do some rapid fire stuff because I want people to get to know Erin, the Erin that's not on, LinkedIn, that's not on the social media platforms. What's your next country you're going to visit?
Italy.
What is a must-have item on your nightstand?
Vibrator.
I love the fact that you said that. As a sexual health doctor, the first time I got scared and I was like, reading glasses, which is also true, but vibrator and lubricant, love it. I love the fact that you said that. Last book that you read?
Oh. I mean, it's sad. It's my own book because I keep going back to it and reliving it.
Why is that sad? I think that's amazing. I love that. If you want to talk about hype women, let's hype you up. I'm
in this weird phase where I'm a little bit like blocked on reading because I am just still recovering from publishing a book. So
yeah,
that's why I don't have an easy response.
You and I are going to I'm going to have a private conversation with you about that, because I feel like honestly fundraising was easier than book writing or this publishing world, or maybe because it's new to me and I went through a couple rounds of fundraising and learned that it's a whole other world out there.
It is. It's a motherfucker, and I will be there with you the whole way, and I will tell you everything I know. I will tell you everything I know and everything that I want you to not make any of the mistakes I made, because holy shit.
That's what as I'm telling people, you know, like I mentor new female founders, and I'm telling them everything I know about investment and VC and fundraising and PE. So I will take your advice. Favorite food?
Mexican.
Oh, and non-negotiable habit for your health?
Yoga.
Oh, I love that. And so I learned something from my coach, in transitions particularly, or in really hard moments. And we both shared some really hard moments. But what I learned is what's your never again in a professional setting?
I will never found a company with another person again.
I love that, because you know what my never again was? I will never have a boss again. I will never, if you show me an org structure ever again, I will pass out and vomit. Like never again will I have a boss. I'm not a good employee. I'm a very good leader. I'm a very good entrepreneur, but I am not a good employee. I'm not a good employee because I'm not a good girl either in the traditional way that we were taught.
And it's really important to know that about yourself and to like say it without explanation. Like, sorry, I'm a forever founder. That's just it. Like, that's just how it is.
Yeah. And I was given opportunities and people are like, you'd be crazy to turn this down. I'm like, no, I would be crazy to take this job, or you would be crazy to hire me because of XYZ. So what is your must have at work? So we talked about never again. What's your absolute must have at work?
Equilibrium. And so you said you don't like the word balance. I don't either. Equilibrium to me is two opposing forces constantly calibrating to find the right center. And so I will never have this same day again where you are just like grind. I really allow myself to experience each day as it comes and say, what is actually best for me today? How am I going to shape this day? And so using, yes, the masculine container to have structure in my business, but truly leading with my divine feminine.
I love that. So where can people find you?
Hypewomen.com. In the spirit of us saying, don't go to those other platforms that are owned by straight, white, cisgendered men who are taking our money and our IP, come find me at hypewomen.com. Join the Hype Women community. Get on the app. We're building what I have been building on other platforms for other people for years in a new and better way.
I love this. Erin, it was so much fun connecting with you. I feel like I've known you forever, honestly.
Well, we probably know each other from like past lives. That's probably what's happening.
It's past lives, intersection. If this episode moved you to make a change, lead with kindness, challenge a mean girl, or disrupt something in your life, I'd love for you to share it with someone you love. Your support helps amplify this message and inspires even more individuals to step into their power. Until next time, keep hyping each other up and leading with your heart.